Now, former Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu joins me from our Abuja studio for more on this discussion. Hello, sir. Now, what do you make of the NFI's target of hitting 20% financial inclusion? It's been quite a long road from 46.3% in 2010, given its context now, especially with the cashless policy drive and new charges.
Yeah, first of all, it's my pleasure to be on this program again. The financial inclusion mentioned by CBN is aimed at making sure that every adult in Nigeria receives enough banking and financial services in the form of deposits, current accounts, savings accounts, credit facilities, insurance, and all financial services. Right now, with what CBN is saying, they want to achieve 20% exclusion by 2020, which is next year. And of course, the only way this could be possible is when there is fintech deployed in all the various states and all the local government areas. Of course, it is for that reason that the federal government, with Bankers Committee and NIPOST, Postal Services, decided to open Nesel Microfinance Bank, which will be located in all the 774 local government areas of the country. This is just aimed at making sure that these services, financial services, get to all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria in order for them to have services, because without this kind of arrangement, it will be difficult for Nigeria to achieve this financial inclusion that we want to achieve by next year. So these are all the efforts made by government through CBN to ensure that the target is reached. I think it is possible to achieve the 20% exclusion by next year.
Well, some other economic watchers are of the view that this is a little bit too big a scale to reach by 2020, which is just a few months more to go. Now, the National Financial Inclusion Strategy has 5 priority themes: youth, women, rural areas, MSMEs, and northern region. What do you make of the scope of this coverage?
Yes, these are the sectors that actually are underbanked. You discover that anybody hearing the northern region will say, why northern region? But you discover that the statistics shows that many communities in those areas are underbanked. And when you also talk about the MSMEs, this is a particular sector that should actually bridge the gap that the federal government and the federal government and CBN want to achieve. Talking about the youth, if you consider the population of the youth against the population of adult aged people in the country, you know that youth are almost 60% of the population. And so if we have such population and we target at them, then it will be possible for CBN to reach this particular target of 20% exclusion. So it is achievable given even the short period, and considering all the strategies put in place, it is indeed achievable. All we need to do is just to believe that it's possible.
Okay, now, but we still have a huge fiscal cash circulating within our different markets. Some analysts also argue that we still have not simplified enough or come up with adequate innovative payment system solutions on how to send money, spend, save, receive, and borrow. And this is still a challenge that we are facing now. And 20%? Your thoughts?
Well, it is achievable. Now, you discover that the fintech deployed in Nigeria banking system and financial system is probably one of the best in the world. There are things we do with our platforms, with our financial platforms today that many advanced countries are not even able to do. So I think the growth in the financial system of Nigeria is going so high to the extent that many other countries are actually copying from us. But to say the least, if you consider where we are now at the financial exclusion rate of about 36.1%, then you should know that with a little more extra effort targeted at the rural areas and with all the Nesel microfinance banks in place, it is possible that that target can be reached.
Well, you're quite optimistic, and I love your optimism. But now, for rural areas and in the north as well, which you earlier spoken, traditional banking and payment methods are often the way to go. And proximity to a bank's branch is quite a significant barrier to accessing basic financial services. We can't talk of technological advancement in those areas because even when you look at the salt, for example, we still have challenges of network and a whole lot of infrastructural deficit. What's your take?
Yeah, that's why the microfinance, Nesel Microfinance Bank is located in all the local government areas of the country. You know, so if they cannot access transactions using the financial services, the fintech, then of course the Nesel Microfinance Bank is there for them to access. Once they can access money, deposit money, access credit, and do their transactions, the aim will be achieved. And you know, because that is why they have used NIPOST. There is no single local government area in the country without NIPOST, post office. So with post office all over the country, it is possible for everybody to have access to financial services.
And how will you now rate the success of point of sales terminals and automated teller machines and the progress so far in a bid to improve on our financial inclusion in Nigeria?
Yeah, the point of sale points we have all over the country are probably inadequate. And in other words, even if I say inadequate, we are seeing most of those POS machines getting into the hands of fraudulent people and thieves that we obviously pick people on the road and force them to withdraw money from their account. So banks should actually identify the businesses of the people requesting for POS terminals, and once they are not so sure of the business the person does, they should not release such POS terminals. I also know that ATM machines are heavily, we don't have enough at all. We are running short of ATM machines. That is why we have a good number of people queuing in ATM machines, and which shouldn't be so.
Let's now also talk about sensitization as well. Sometimes when government comes up with all of these policies and initiatives, it isn't broken down well enough for the man on the street to be able to understand all of these. Now, really, looking at the value-added tax, looking at the charges to ensure that we have a cashless policy, do you think we are doing enough of sensitization and taking the message to the nook and crannies of every part of the country?
To that extent, I don't think we are doing enough. The CBN needs to do more in actually sensitizing the people and giving them enough information concerning what they are planning to do so that people will know the extent of work they are doing. And many people in the rural areas do not have an idea of what the federal government is planning. And it is very important that they do their sensitization and take them to their various local government areas for them to know what is there for them to access and how to access these facilities.
And what new initiatives are you also looking to now from the CBN and the new Economic Advisory Council as well in ensuring that we have stable macroeconomic indices and the role of incentives really to have more patronage for financial services?
Sorry, repeat that
What
question.
new initiatives are you expecting from the Central Bank of Nigeria as well as the Economic Advisory Council so that we can improve on our bid to have the cashless policy well established and also look at financial inclusion meeting the target set?
Yeah, the economic team that has been assembled by the president will have a lot of work to do. And the CBN also will have a lot of work to do. Right now, of course, the basic problem and the very major problem that we have in this economy today is that of generation of enough revenue to be able to meet our budget estimates and to be able to fund a good number of obligations that are maturing here and there. So the target of the economic team should just be what will drive our revenue base and generate more and more of our revenue without causing a lot of hardship to the people. Because each time we talk about revenue, the next thing everybody will think about is increasing the tax rates. And this is just far from creating a solution to the problems. So we need to find other ways of generating our revenue base in order for us to have enough money to fund both capital projects and so that we can also borrow less from the money market and the capital market. So a lot of work is needed to be done by the economic team and by CBN.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
I think it's also important that the CBN targets the MSMEs, which they have been targeting all this while. Many times, many individuals come into this place who are not supposed to benefit from these facilities, and they come from the political end and come from other areas and access these facilities that are actually targeted at MSMEs. So when these funds are made available, CBN should ensure that only MSMEs access them and access them without hard conditions, because most of them complain that the conditions attached to these funds are very stringent and many of them are not able to meet them. So these are the things CBN should do with the economic team to ensure that money spreads all over the place.
Well noted, well noted. Thank you very much. We've been speaking with the former Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu.